Hey, welcome to the closing beat, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hope you had a good day. The markets had a good day today, and we are going to talk about it for sure. This is the closing beat where we talk about the stock market. We are registered, SEC registered financial advisors. I'm going to put that letter actually over here from the SEC so everybody can see it because we're proud of it. We are fiduciary financial advisors, now registered with the SEC. We manage our own portfolios, but every day we come to you to talk about the stock market, let you know how things went, the good, the bad, the ugly, and there wasn't a lot of ugly out there today. Well, maybe a few things. And of course, we're going to cover it. Off to the left-hand side, you can see how the markets performed today. The Dow was higher by about 1.75%. The S&P 500 added 1.5%, and the Nasdaq about 1.5% as well. And then at the bottom there, you see the chart, the minute-by-minute activity. We stayed positive all day. So for a brief moment in time, we tried to go negative on the day. We've noticed for the past few days, actually, that when the market started positive, either overnight or first thing in the morning, sellers came in and pushed it lower. Well, today was the first time, and even better than that, if you happen to be following along, the markets closed near the highs of the day, actually just a couple ticks off the highs of the day, and that's a great sign. That means the buying was so strong into the close that had the markets not closed, the buying would likely have continued, so a very good sign there. We have a lot to cover today, so we'll get started with it. The market's higher, basically on trade war, easing concerns. Look, that's going to be, you're just going to see that for years now, back and forth between what's going on here. Trump tweeted that he expects to have a great deal with China. That was all to get the markets to go higher because of what he saw yesterday. And the man doesn't like to lose, so whether you love him or hate him, he doesn't like to lose. Anytime the markets see a little weakness, you know he's going to say whatever he's got to say to get the markets back up. And so that was very helpful there. There's also an interesting statistic, which I can't write it on the board because you can't see it there, but an interesting statistic that says in any time the stock market falls 8% in a month, the S&P 500, and there's 2 days left to go in the month, that there's an 80% chance the markets will rally going into the last 2 days to wrap up the month, and they rally by an average of 2.75%. So I tweeted that out earlier. I also mentioned it in the Doe Show. How about that for a geeky stat for the day, right? I mean, come on. We have 2 days left. Well, now only 1 day left, and we've added 1.5% already. And so let's see. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but 80% of the time we get at least 2.75%, well, in average. So let's see what happens. So far, that stat's proving itself to be true. I love that stuff. I could do that stuff all day. If there were some way that we could come up with stats faster, that's pretty much all I would do. I would probably just talk about that all the time. But that's what you got. So look, is the market bottoming here? That's the big question. I don't think you just see a magic bottom form. Now, thanks to earnings and a lot of things that are happening after hours, it looks like a stronger push, at least to start the morning tomorrow as of now. Here's the thing. We got midterm elections next Tuesday, right? Or next Thursday? Tuesday or Thursday? So you got these midterm elections coming up. Once that's out of the way and everybody gets over the fact that one side won or lost and the world's going to end or it's not going to end, the markets will get back into now what's left of the year. We got tax loss harvesting going into the end of the year. That could be a big deal because of the new tax laws this year for people wanting to close out positions into the year end to get that tax loss benefit or to lock in their long-term gain now since it's tied to their income. I don't know if we see a lot of that. You also got the Christmas time rally, the end of the year when things tend to start picking up. Consumer sentiment happens to be at its highest level ever, so it is expected that people are going to go spend a ton of money on the holidays this year, and we'll see, right? So once we get the midterms out of the way, I think that's when the market's volatility, that day-to-day fluctuations, I think that's when things start to slow down and we get back to a more calming type market. Still your good days and bad days, but nothing like what we've seen. So here's the Dow on the charts. You should be able to see it. Yep, everything looks good there. We got a little bounce today, staying under the 200-day moving average. That'll be noted. The S&P 500, the more waterfall-looking drop, also starting to recover there. Looking great, of course, at least in the short term. The Nasdaq failed to really regain what it lost yesterday. That's a bit of a negative there if you're paying attention. And the Russell 2000 really trying to come out of that low. Today, one of the more aggressive pushes to the upside that we've seen in some time here. Actually, you got to go back all the way to October 16th to see any sort of green day of any value on the screen there. All right, let's point out oil prices. They broke to new lows. Look, you got sanctions starting soon on Iran, and it's been reported that Iran is selling oil like crazy. ahead of those sanctions just to raise money and do what they got to do. Also, there was a worldwide number, Russia, US, and Saudi Arabia, the OPEC nations, 33 million barrels a day is what they're putting out. That was a little higher than expected. I believe 32 million or 32.3 million was the expectation. So whenever there's more oil coming out to the market, of course, that means higher supply. Whenever there's higher supply, of course, prices tend to fall a little bit. So I would point that out. Home builders, I'll continue to cheer that area on. Today was a very important day for home builders because the volume, a couple times we've seen people try to pick out these bottoms in the home builders, and I've even mentioned it on this show. Don't you kind of want to buy the home builders? That's as close as I can get to saying, hello, try to buy the home builders without actually saying it. And so today was a really important day because not only was it a positive day, but look at that volume. We hit very nearly a record level of volume. Actually, I don't think this is correct over here. So this is going to be a record volume day for that. When people want to buy those lows and you see such a strong reversal off those lows on that heavy a volume, that's telling you the buyers are very solidly in control. So if you look at some of the home builders, Pulte Homes, great move over the past few days here. Toll Brothers coming off the bottom, looking really good there. Lennar coming off the bottom as well, all of them with heavy volume. That's called sector rotation because that volume that you see in the background, those little light gray sort of bars that you see in the background, that doesn't happen because a little old Dustin got on YouTube and suggested people take a look at the home builders. That's money moving from somewhere into the home building space. That's big money. That's those people that I said, all the big successful investors that are nowhere to be found. They're not on TV during this market drop. It's because they're in their office. They're working hard with all their analysts trying to find the best place to put their money. That's what's causing this rally, and we will find who that is as we get those reports. Semiconductors, beautiful day for semiconductors. You know you need that to have a strong market. 4.25% as that one tries to come off its lows. I'm not convinced yet, by the way, that that's going to be a low, but it's sure nice to see people trying to pick that bottom. You also need the banks for the markets to rally. We did have that today, almost 2% for the banks as they try to recover. Again, I don't think this sort of magically creates a V bottom and takes off higher, but one can hope. Coca-Cola breaking out of that range again today, 2.5%. Basically, earnings beat. A lot of organic growth was the focus there for them. It's also a consumer staple stock, so it helps that that already had some momentum behind it. If you look at the consumer staple sector, that one's also breaking out as well. Coca-Cola, Pepsi are some of the bigger ones in the consumer staple sector, making up, I believe, close to 20%. So something to pay attention to there. General Electric came out with earnings. They missed. Everyone expected them to miss. Not a big deal. They missed by more than everybody expected, and they cut the dividend. They left it at $0.01. I don't get that. Like, to me, I thought it was a bullish thing that they cut their dividend to use that cash elsewhere. They left their dividend at $0.01 per share. What's the point? Right? They should have just taken the whole thing away, but they're trying not to break with history there, so kind of understand. Under Armour smashed it on earnings. Really good day for them. 25% upside global sales. Overseas, they were saying they're killing it over there. It hasn't been an issue for them in the past. It's been a weak spot in terms of them taking advantage of it. So they're actually starting to take over. Even the preferred shares, if you're looking at those, of course, they did 27 and almost 28%. So as far as earnings goes, we were expecting them to make 12 cents a share. You can see at the bottom they reported 25 cents a share. Killed it on earnings, killed it on revenues. A lot of great comments about things overseas for them, and so that helped the retail sector as well at about 3% as hopefully the retail sector is starting a little bit of its rally there. Pfizer, you got kind of mixed on the day. They missed on revenues. It did recover a little bit. It was down a lot more to start the day. They missed on revenues. They lowered their guidance. They said the strong dollar and some supply issues were a concern for them. So, that's that. Mondelez, we covered yesterday. It actually finished up 5% today, just above the 200-day moving average. They did, better than expected. Organic revenue was better than expected. Lower expenses, meaning higher margins, came in. And remember, that's the focus this earnings season. That's what everybody's been interested in. These are the guys that make Oreo, Nabisco, Triscuit, Nutter Butter. You like Nutter Butter? I like Nutter Butters. Apple, a little bit higher today. It was actually pretty much flat most of the day. You got new iPads, new Macs, and things like that. Look, that iPad's expensive. The new iPad they came out with, well, who's spending that much money on an iPad to like browse Facebook or watch Netflix or something? Whew, that's a lot of money. You guys really love your Apple. Sony up about 5% today. This one actually got a customer that was interested in Sony and actually built up a little position in there. Very disciplined, by the way, so I'll give them credit for that. They saw an increase in their operating profit. They raised their full year outlook. It's all about gaming, right? Sony, Electronic Arts, I'm not doing too well there. ATVI, Take-Two Interactive, actually Take-Two Interactive, very strong today, very good day, up 11%, we'll cover that in a second. All of it has to do with gaming. There is so much money going into the gaming space right now, not necessarily stocks, but I mean like the competitions they have. Like that guy Ninja makes $500,000 a month just showing himself playing games on Twitch. That's incredible. I mean, just blows you away. So a lot of money going into that space right now. Take-Two Interactive, if you're a technical trader, you are very amazed at what happened today. I'll just say it that way. You are very, very amazed and happy with what the stock did today with that 11% gain. The company, what was the game? Red Dead Redemption 2? Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, $725 million in sales. Biggest event ever. Biggest movie event in the first weekend worth of sales. That's the biggest game release ever. It's the biggest movie, like if you compare it to the movies. No movie has ever done that before. So it gives you an idea how much this gaming thing is just crazy. MasterCard a little bit lower there. Beat on earnings and revenue. The problem was the revenue for them was mostly because of rebates and incentives. So when they go to these merchants and they try to get them to switch from the other providers, they had to give them a lot of incentives. Investors don't like to see that because that's not real money, right? That's like when a company says, one of these Wall Street companies says, open an account with us and we'll let you trade for free for 2 years. That's not real revenue for 2 years. And so if enough people take advantage of that, investors kind of see that as a negative. So just something to look at there. Facebook did close higher by about 3% today. They beat on earnings. Revenue missed a little bit, but if you really pay attention to it, how do I not like go geeky on this one? I don't know if you guys like geeky stuff or not, so I try not to go too crazy. If you look at their revenues, they just barely missed revenues. However, it was all because of foreign exchange. If you take out the foreign exchange issues that a lot of these companies have been having, their revenues basically met. I think they beat by just a touch there. So investors were looking at that. My big thing, and I've been saying it here for weeks now, Facebook is adding people left and right to combat all the regulatory issues, to combat the fake news for the midterm elections and so on. And so my big thing, I've said it like every other day, what does that cost? Right? Surely we all have to be anticipating that that's going to cost a lot. The buildings, the people, the computers, the manpower, the management, you name it, they're doing all of this to sort of appease Congress and make them and the public so that the public knows. Well, anyways, it shows that it didn't really cost them that much, right, to do all of this. So I think you'll see this one higher tomorrow. I know it was lower initially. I think it's higher right now, actually. But I would think you would see this stock higher into tomorrow. To me, that was a good earnings announcement. Monthly active users came in just a little bit less than expected, but we're all expecting that to decline. Every analyst seems to have the same expectations for daily active users, monthly active users, because they assume that Facebook's going to have to draw those people back with everything they're doing. So in my opinion, the Facebook thing, that was good. I thought they did rather well on earnings. I would expect to see that one continue higher. We now know, of course, the costs. Now, given what they're spending on that, I would not be surprised if you're flipping through your timeline and once the midterms are over, like right now, if you go on Facebook, you probably just see nothing but like all the political ads and stuff. But if you, and once that's all over, I would fully expect that they're going to ramp that up so that next quarter they get a little bit more revenue. I think right now they make about $6 per user. So every one of you that use Facebook, they make about $6. I think they're going to try to get that number up, and to do that, we'll know, because if you're on Facebook every day and you start seeing more and more ads, when you would usually see like one ad every like 15 people or something, if you start seeing more of that, that's going to be your first tip that that's the strategy they're taking. They kind of hinted at that. They didn't do it yet, according to this earnings. If they're doing it now, watch for the next earnings. You know we'll cover it. You know, just other things like ACAM, great day, closed above the 200-day moving average. That's all earnings related. NVIDIA participating in some of Take-Two Interactive's growth, of course, all tied into that. KLA-Tencor, we covered that yesterday. These guys, they're not in the semiconductor space like with the chips. They make the machines that people use to make the chips. It's kind of weird, right? You got people making the chips. Well, what's the machine that makes the chips? That's the machine. Well, what's the machine that makes the machine that makes the chips? I used to drive myself crazy as a kid with that. What's the machine that makes the machine that makes the machine that makes the chips? All right, I've driven you crazy. Airline stocks higher on the day. American Airlines about 6% higher. Interest rates just a touch higher. Nobody seemed to care. What do we got on the downside here? We'll take some questions if you have questions. General Electric, we covered that one. Ulta Beauty, a little bit lower on the day. That's a wild one lately. IBM a little bit lower. They're acquiring Red Hat. Remember, that's the news from yesterday. CarMax a little bit lower. I worry about them. I'll worry about them a little bit. Car loan industry and things going on there. Symantec just not able to make anything happen. MasterCard we covered. I think we pretty much got all the other stuff. A lot of oil names, energy names, a lot of those high dividend, high growth, high income energy names. Those were all lower on the day. There's just probably 15 of them. I could go through them all. And then everything else that was lower on the day was lower by less than 1%. Really not that big of a deal. Adobe, Michael Kors. So whether you're in tech or retail, anything that didn't participate today almost made a nice positive day. So that's about it. Let's see here. Berkshire Hathaway was a question. Yeah, 1.5%. Kind of gets ranked in there with some of the financials. So a good day for them. Semiconductors, yeah, it was a good day. Good day, good day. Banks, regional banks also. Regional banks added another 1%. What's the reason for the company giving preliminary earnings before the actual earnings report? Doesn't it ruin the surprise? It's sort of like a heads up. Like when a retail company will typically do the ahead of time, they'll report sales at their stores before their actual earnings come out so that you get an idea of what's supposed to happen there. It's all public. I mean, if the analysts get to know, we get to know pretty much right then as well. V Speaks. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for watching. Toll Brothers, you took a shot. David Cook, I love it, man. You got your long Friday 8. So yeah, love it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Good job, man. Likes the geeky stuff. Okay, I know it scares some people, but I'll throw it out there when we can. Back to the semiconductor space, you got Micron. That's a weaker one in the group. So you want to compare, if you have some of these, compare the other semiconductors, your Taiwan semiconductors, things like that are doing well. Look at the ones that are holding off. Remember, Micron didn't report too well there, so people have sort of chosen to focus elsewhere. AMAT's coming up tomorrow. Their earnings are coming up on that one. I forget the actual day, but I would hold off until you see what's going on there. Ethanol stocks, man, you're looking way outside the box there. Not a lot to go by in that space and not a lot of volume. The biggest deal yin yang is going to be volume. Where's all the volume at? Doesn't have to always be 100% there. It's just one of those areas that are really not getting a focus right now. You would think with midterm elections and everything and what Trump did out in Iowa, maybe, but it's kind of like nobody really cares. So a tough one there. Did I cover everything on the day? Electronic Arts, by the way, if you're in that gaming space, they're the sort of, you don't want to be on that end of the spectrum. They're participating a little bit. They had earnings come out. I believe they're lower here after hours. They're just not keeping up with the game. They're down to $90, $91, back towards the lows. So you got the other names starting to steal the thunder. Electronic Arts, man, they got a little work to do there to keep up. Elon Musk removed his name, CEO and chairman. He said he tweeted out just to see what would happen. So he took his name off as CEO and chairman. That guy's a unique bird, man. He's a unique bird. I like him. General Electric and Apple with their new products there. So I think I've covered it. That's pretty much all I have for you. We'll be back tomorrow, Halloween, for the closing beat, as well as, of course, the stock market update. If I helped you in some way, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. We're using the data to then go. I'm hoping to give a lot of talks next year in front of the industry, financial conferences, investment advisor conferences and things. And in order to get noticed, you got to be somebody. So I'm asking you guys to help me be somebody so that I can use the data for that. No other reason. I could care less about everything else at this point. And Hey, enjoy the rest of your day. We will see you tomorrow.
Why should you choose Jazz Wealth as your retirement or long-term investing service? Our portfolios are managed by us, not some faceless mutual fund manager. Our private classes will teach you everything about investing and getting your dough straight. Best of all, our fiduciary standard means your best interest comes before ours.